All right, here we go. So I'm back. I'm Ahman Green, Director of Esports with University of Nebraska in Lincoln, and I will be starting that officially in the fall. Right now, I just lectured here spring semester Intro to Esports, which is similar to sports management. So now we're at the coaches panel here, and my man Billy, we just met yesterday. He just came in as a replacement. So here we go, and we got how you say your last name, Megan?
Lomonof.
Lomonof. All right, coaching here. Hold on, let me get my phone reopened up here. Coaching at Illinois State. And Billy, where did you coach it? Florida Southern. Got you. All right, so talking coaching, you know, getting the kids, I say, going in the right direction with practice structure, with building team camaraderie, understanding how to talk to one another in comms, how to talk to one another off game, so out of the game too as well. So starting off the first question here. So what has been the biggest struggle? We'll start with you, Megan. Ladies first. Here we go. What has been the biggest struggle as a coach trying to mesh and grow your team in the collegiate esports space?
So I think the most important thing is to realize our goals as a collegiate team is a fundamental thing before even looking at the problems. So one thing is to say, the point of our esports program, or one of the major objectives of what we've been trying to do, is bring people out of the dorms into the space, into the arena, and even the more competitive players, bringing them and having a full and complete collegiate experience. Mm-hmm. And so I'd say that has been one of our biggest challenges. So it's not just come here and play Overwatch. It's come and be a student, have a full academic schedule, and go to the football game, go check out student life, and do all that stuff that a 20,000 person student school has to offer, and explore all of that. And so I'd say that's one of our biggest challenges. So.
Gotcha. Billy, you want to add to that anything from your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the biggest thing for my programs I've run in the past has definitely been like player development, giving them, like you said, the experience, but then also developing them, figure out what their goals are and help them to achieve those, whether it's any sort of, hey, I am aspiring to become a director someday, or I want to work at Riot Games. Mm-hmm. How do I get an internship? Every single aspect of what they want to accomplish, it's our duty and job to help them get there. It's what college is all about. It's about that development. It's about getting them in the door and giving that experience, enriching their experience across, the 4 years, 2 years, however long they're with the program. So that's definitely the big part of it. And then also, having fun with it. I think there's a lot of stress that comes with being at the top. A lot of stress. And if you can just go in, have fun with it, but also, hey, remember what we're working towards. We have a goal. Beginning of the year, I set a goal with all of my teams and say, hey, we are working towards, CLOL top 32. We're working towards CECC 2023. That's what we're working towards. Okay, are we making the decisions that we need to make in order to get there?
Yeah, in
if
preparation.
We're not, yeah, if we're not, we need to realign. So.
Yeah, it's something for myself too, is where, between setting the goals and then, being, I remember my first year being asked the question as a coach from one of my players, why do we practice? I was like, huh? I was like, we practice to get better, but then also how we work together once we're in a real game. Scrimming against another school or scrimming internally with our team, with our other teammates, is just going to be getting us prepared for the actual game when this game is going to count. And this is why we have practice. So just when I got asked that question coming from the world I came from, I was like, okay, now if I asked my coach that, it would have been an interesting conversation. And I'm running extra laps and stuff, which I do hand out. And I don't hand out laps. I hand out push-ups for when comms get, I say, X-rated. So no toxicity and no cursing. Because obviously if we're on a live stream, you can't drop an F-bomb. You can't do that stuff. So I was like, every time I heard something, I'll just look over at them. They kind of like look at me, see if I heard anything. And I'll be like, yeah, whoever said it, 15 push-ups, please. Hurry up. Knock them out. Because, it's accountability. You got to help grow there. So next question here. So what advice or I say words of wisdom would you give a new esports coach that is just starting up a program and heading up a new team at a university that's never had one?
So I would say the biggest thing is definitely making sure that you are sticking to things that are going to help you be successful, whether it's any sort of scheduling, any sort of staff requirements, and then also making sure that what does the college want in terms of the goal of the program. If a goal of a program is to come in and say, hey, we want to recruit in 50 kids a year, okay, cool. Are you going to help get me the resources that I need to be successful? If the goal of the program is to win championship after championship, great. Are you going to allow me to hire in coaches that are going to help us get there? Because having one person coach all 4 games, that's not a recipe for success. You're going to burn out. Don't let that be the expectation from day one. Secondly, then going into it then is understand that, yes, there might be some long hours, but don't overdo it. I think that's a big thing with coaches that, you get into it, it's like, man, this is what the job requires, but we can change that narrative, but we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves to be able to get that.
Yep. Megan?
So I guess I'm focusing on Overwatch. So from a one-game perspective, I know you're working with many different games. Number one, stay very organized. Like I am in love with spreadsheets, and they should actually start.
Google Drive is home.
Enjoy that. But I'd say even beyond that, to bounce off what you said, not to be able to expect to do everything. Like know the resources you need, but more so if
delegation.
Delegation. If you can't acquire it, find it.
Yes.
Like surely there's people around. Develop the community to acquire those resources. Find somebody who does love the spreadsheets if you don't, and look up, for Illinois State, we have an amazing director, David Kirk. He's, just a powerhouse in public school funding. And, I have our league coach helping out with the Overwatch team, and I'm leaning on a lot of people. And, Airplane, Sod, of course. Yeah, shout out. Okay. And so I'd say most importantly, be willing to lean on people.
Right. Yeah. And be open. I say one thing too. I learned is always I say do more listening than talking, as being a director or coach. Because sometimes the players, some of the things they say when you're having an open conversation, they're like, oh, wait a minute, I hear what you're really asking me now. Sometimes because we're always processing everything as a coach, we're like trying to figure out what the plan the next day and make sure we lay out the schedule. But sometimes opening our ears to them as well. Sometimes the little knuckleheads say something right. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll give you a little credit for that. There you go. So for the next question, Megan, we'll start with you here. So what is your definition of success, I say both personally and as well as within all your teams that you coach?
So I like to think of this one, my main line of work is actually, I'm a flutist. I'm a professional flutist. So when I'm preparing for something, I have a certain way of thinking about it. Like, was it successful because I won the audition? Like, I've lost a bunch of auditions, but if I did the preparation, and I was like, I represented myself well. I knew that it was 100% a successful audition. It was a successful performance. I did the work, and I'm proud of it, and that was the best of my ability. And so I see Overwatch and esports. Did we do the work, and did we do it the best we could? And can we learn from that and do better? And so I'd say I'd actually akin that to music.
Right.
Where we prepared, and I'd say that was successful then.
Definitely, I can relate. I had one of my daughters. I have 4 daughters and a son, and one of them was she played the clarinet, and I remember going to recitals. But the discipline of her, because she was also an athlete. She ran track and she played softball as well. So it was all coincided in itself. So there you go, Billy.
Yeah. So for me, success comes down to I'm big on competition. I love winning. Winning doesn't mean the final score. For me, I have 2 types of winning. It's the winning I do when I lose, through personal improvement. What did I learn? If you don't learn something from every single thing that you're doing, then you've wasted your time. And something that I instill in all my players that come through is making sure that we win from our losses. The second thing then is, making sure that the competition doesn't take away the fun. And I think, so I had a golf coach in high school, and I love playing golf. I'm a very casual golfer.
Okay.
But he was always like, yeah, we got to go out, we're going to hit 300 balls today, and then you go out and play 18 holes.
So that's an intense golfer right there.
Drill sergeant type. And I'm just like,
wow.
I just want to throw on music and just go play and have fun. And I play better in that atmosphere. Right. Don't let the competition take away the fun. That's the other mode of success. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. 60 playoff appearances. I just don't really equate that number to, hey, I'm a successful coach, because then there's also the development side of the players coming in and saying, what did I want to accomplish on day one? Did I get there 4 years later? And if you can say that was a success, then that's success at the end of the day.
Yeah, I say it goes back to listening to the players, watching the players, seeing their body mechanics on a particular day. If it's a long day where you're playing and practicing, or if it's a short day where you're just doing more conversation and not really in the game, but seeing how they react to everything. So definitely can relate to that. So start with you, Billy. Here, how do you like? How do you like to approach your player turnover year over year? You know.
Yeah, so for me, I really focused on building a program that was for the students. So really giving them an opportunity to have a voice within the program. Hey, we are not happy with how the practice times are. Is there any chance that we can push it back because of X, Y, and Z? Yeah, absolutely. But don't let don't let that be the only voice within it.
Right.
It's a very fine line you have to walk of being able to say.
They'll push the envelope.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yep,
Hey,
yep.
why can't we have a Monster sponsorship and have monsters in the arena? Because I want you drinking water because that's better for you.
Exactly.
So having that, and then also just making sure, like you said, listen to them, but then also make sure that you're bringing in players that align with your program goals. I start day one with recruiting, and I say, hey, this is what I'm looking to accomplish.
Right.
What are you looking for in a program? If we're not a match on day one, I'm not going to walk away from the conversation. I'm going to help you find somewhere where you're going to be successful. It may just not be with me.
Correct.
So I start day one with recruiting and bringing in players who are aligned with our mission. And if they're not, then I'm not going to waste your time, and I don't want you to waste my time.
Correct. Yeah.
The other portion of it then, too, is starting to dip into the high school level and working with coaches directly at the high school level to help set expectations for those students when they get to the college level. A lot of students I've had come in, they're just like, yeah, like esports is really cool. I'm 4.4 on the boards, and I'm like top 500. Okay, cool. Have you ever played on a team before? Well, no. Oh, okay.
Right.
Well, let's
is-
help you be successful.
That's a big difference.
It is.
That
And
individualism to being in a team dynamic, four teammates to five, it does bring in a big difference.
Absolutely. So helping them to, be successful, bringing that in, setting the expectations from 4 years in high school to now they're freshmen on campus, college, day one, they
Right.
know what they're supposed to be doing as opposed to, hey, I'm here for the first time ever. Makes that transition a lot easier.
Got you. Megan?
So I think there's like two different approaches. One,
Yeah.
if you're looking at your casual teams and the club teams, you can get that message, and from that student with they were 4.4 and not quite on a team. It's like I like to think at least for us, like we still have a place for you, and we're still a community,
Yeah.
and that idea is to bring in students who want to come and graduate. Obviously, our goals are different for the varsity team, where it's more competitive, but those goals are still there. It's like, do you want to come? We want to set them up to graduate. And we've had, turnover for us is 8 players going to pro in the last 3 semesters, which is a great problem to have.
Right,
But,
that's a good problem.
But some of those, I mitigate for varsity, it's a different approach where I'm not going to the high schools necessarily. It's more targeted. And
Right.
I'm creating those relationships within the Overwatch scene before that turnover even happens. So
Correct.
I'm already talking to players. I'm seeing where they're at, what their interests are. Are you going to be interested in college in a couple years? Is Illinois State even a good fit for you? So when those openings come up, I already have the relationships established in the community.
Right. You got to establish those relationships. Make sure you're clear with what you're asking of the student before they come on campus, like you mentioned, Billy. So, Megan, back to you. I'm gonna ask a question that for yourself, being a lady in the industry, being a woman in the industry, how difficult was that when you started that? Went to the program, or you're already there creating a program. What was that feeling like? And then trying to make sure you pass that message, like, look, I'm here, I'm serious, I know my job. How would you relay? How did you relay that to make sure the kids got the buy-in of you as a coach? Because I know the diversity, equity part of it sometimes is tough. For myself, wasn't more that me being African American. It was more me being a professional athlete. What do you know about video games? I get that question, and so to ask you as a woman, which is a big deal, where were you at in that space at that time?
I'm very lucky to come from. Well, first off, Illinois State is an amazing program and is very supportive of those goals. And
Great.
I think there is an unequivocal message that is, all things DEI, women in the space, that is extremely important
Yes.
and a goal of the program.
Yep.
I'm very lucky to have come from 2 other spaces prior to this, joining this awesome team. That I've worked with marginalized gender teams, and I've
Yep.
had an experience listening to the players, even recruited from them, and that was more my statement
Right.
too. And also I've been in the Army for 16 years, so I've worked with military groups
Correct.
where women are also kind of a little outnumbered, and so addressing that and moving into those spaces is not unfamiliar.
Good.
And esports is no different. So I feel like it's something that we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's still some. Yeah.
In a lot of spaces, and all we can do is one step at a time, and work on our spaces together.
And grow.
And grow together.
Yep, and grow together. Yep. And so Billy, where have you? I say. Coming into a situation about that, and then obviously how did you address it? Because I know when I first got hired and seeing the guidelines of like NECC, Nate Star League, play versus even having to have young ladies on the roster was like like we had to do it, or we'll be like penalized, or your program might eventually not be a program. So how did you react, and how do you show that support for young ladies, people in marginal communities, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one thing definitely is making sure they know that those opportunities exist.
Right.
I had one student that came into our arena, just walked in and was like, hey, do you guys have an Overwatch team? Absolutely, we have an Overwatch team. Would you like to try out? She ended up being my varsity captain within 3 weeks. And she was a very talented player. We ran into an issue of, hey, someone new just came in, may not been in fact that, hey, she was a woman, and we struggled with the fact that she was our shot caller. And so I sat down and was like, guys, what's our goal here? And I bring everything back to that goal. Our goal here is to win. All right, cool. Well, if we're not listening to our shot caller, we're making those decisions. I don't care who it is. It could be, Barney in here making shot calls. I don't care who it is. We got to make sure that we're making that we're making those decisions to align with that goal. And the team was like, oh, okay, yeah. And so all of a sudden, okay, now let's do it again. Keep doing these test runs out and scrims, drilling things down, and all of a sudden things started to click. The team was wildly successful, and it just took off. So having honest conversations, because at the end of the day, these are young adults that we're having conversations with, and just remind them, why are you here? Are you making the correct decisions? It goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. And then when you start explaining it and they actually taking action on it too as well, that's what also sends the message in so many different ways. And they understand, okay, this is the way things are going to be in our building, and then outside in the outside world when they go into graduation, go into a workforce job. If they're not in the esports industry or the video game industry, it's going to be the same. They got to understand that. Yeah.
Just in terms, again, more towards gender. Something we've done before. We've actually benched. And this is more on the club side, but like bench players who, if we find out in the comp games that they're out in the community and not doing something appropriate, we'll bench them and we'll address it head on. And I think that look at all the students we have here and how many we can affect.
Correct.
Like our reach is very large, and it's just a matter: are we actually going to develop our players and make that choice to do that? And I believe in a lot of the schools here, and I just hope we can verbalize that.
100%, because if you don't, then you want to go backwards. So I say next question, and we have a few to wrap it up here. Would be so we're talking about the whole team dynamic. What is something that you do to make sure, or I say what is something that you do to keep your team on top when you're in that start of the season to the end of the season to make sure they're playing at their top level every time?
Balance is a huge thing. Making sure that they're taking care of their business within the classroom, but then when they're actually in practicing, making sure we're making the most of our time. I try to limit things to about 18 to 20 hours a week, make sure they have enough time for the outside stuff. We know that they're going to play games on their own. They're going to go queue comp, they're going to go play solo queue, they're going to go watch VODs of their own. I don't need them in there 20 hours a week as a team, and so I actually split mine. I do mine a little bit differently. Is Sunday we come in, we do a game plan meeting for usually about 2 hours. We'll scout our opponent. We do that as a team. Monday we execute on that game plan. Tuesday we execute on the game plan. Wednesday is a day off. Thursday is usually a day off too. Friday we do like a 20-minute walkthrough, and then Saturday is our game. And we keep it very, we execute on the game plan and we change it every week. Now we have our core identities as a team, but to really keep a team on top, you need consistency, and you also need balance. Those are the two things I've kind of found have been the key to success. Having consistency, especially in college, right?
Yeah.
I remember when I was a freshman coming in, and
up and down
I didn't
day.
do well. And having that consistency is like, okay, I know what we're doing in practice tonight. The communication was clear. That goes a long way in keeping a team at the top once they're there. And also for the players that are just coming in, getting comfortable, it gives them a space where it's like, okay, I know what to expect. I can be calm here. I can be myself.
Right. Megan?
So I'd say it's two things, and one to bounce off, preventing burnout. So, I think sometimes they don't know when they need a break.
Yes.
And so I think as, the staff, we need a break, and maybe even don't tell them. It's just 2 days, we have these 2 days off. Don't ask why. we're just not even going to explain it. But I think that's part of our job is to recognize those moments in them. And I think the second one is resilience and training resilience. So I think you lose a match and you're going to get more stressed out quickly.
Yeah.
And that's when you start spiraling and you see people not do as well. But a thing I think that we've done really well at our school is we're kind of known, we win a lot, but we're also known for our lower bracket runs. That we have a reputation for it. And it's to a most hilarious
Say that again, the part?
Lower bracket runs. We have a reputation.
Gotcha.
And I honestly think it's because we've actually put work into our resilience, that mental reset, and to avoid the catastrophizing that we can do and bring it back to center. Okay, what's the worst case scenario? Okay, we're going to just keep losing, never win a match again. Everybody will replay my failures till the end of time for all the giggles.
Right.
Or we can come back, win the next match, and we're going to win the whole thing. And you start changing the mindset and move from what reality is to even an even better scenario.
Correct.
And so preventing burnout and the resilience combined are the two things we've focused on to have success.
Gotcha. So we talked about programs here and coaching. And to wrap it up here, one last question for both of you. So what was the one thing that got you into coaching? What was the motivation that sparked it, that then flipped that switch? Is like, okay, I want to help out at this college level of esports and do my job and do this job. Megan, you want to start it?
So, I mean, I majored in music education.
Right.
I've always loved working with people. I'm a flutist, yeah.
Right.
And so I've always liked, working with groups. I coached jiu-jitsu, so it always was a natural progression. And then it was esports. And so I started as a player. I was playing on teams. And I just had one of my coaches say, hey, have you thought about coaching? And brought me on as assistant coach. And it just started with somebody making the suggestion. And I think I was already thinking about it. And so it just was one thing to the next. As far as collegiate, I used to use my alma mater, so I was a little partial when I got the opportunity. But it was a natural progression for me, at least.
Okay. All right. Billy?
Yeah, I had a very non-traditional way of getting into coaching. I failed out after my freshman year of college.
Okay.
Like I said, freshman year was rough for me. I didn't do well.
Yeah, college is not for everybody.
No, it definitely wasn't.
That is a true statement.
It definitely wasn't. And so I'd moved back home. I was playing a video game that my friends got me addicted on, League of Legends.
Of course.
And I just sent a message to our local club at the University of Northern Iowa and was like, hey, I play League of Legends. I see you guys play League of Legends. Can I just come hang out? They're like, yeah, come on up. We can have 10% of our club be non-students. And they were at 6 people. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll come up and hang out with you guys. About a month in, they signed up for a tournament. It was the first iteration ever of College League of Legends. Back then, it was called Ivy Law. And I was like, whoa, this is really cool. You guys are going to play against other colleges? This is unheard of. And so I went to our club president and was like, hey, I want to be involved. What can I do? They're like, well, you can't play because you're not a student. I was like, well, what can I do?
Yeah.
And the club president, now I was the worst player there. And everybody knew it. Was not a secret. And the club president looked at me and was like, have you thought about coaching? I'm like, coaching? I can't even play this game. And he just stone cold looked at me and goes, it's a good time to learn. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I approached it. Now, growing up, I watched a lot of football. Watched a lot of you play. And I really wanted to be a football coach.
Right.
But obviously, that didn't pan out.
Right.
So by getting into the coaching aspect of it, we went 3-3 the first year. We missed playoffs by 1 game. And I'm like, I want to make a career out of this. Now, I was volunteering at the time. No one was getting paid. To see something like this out here 10 years ago never would have crossed my mind.
No,
but
me neither. Yeah.
I had a feeling that this is what I wanted to do. Seeing, how do we tackle, because every team is different. It's a different problem.
Yes.
And I like solving problems. So being able to come in and work with what I have. Now let's put a game plan together and go see how it fares against someone else.
Right.
And now let's do that different every single week. It always keeps you on your toes. There's always something to do. And it's something you wake up and you just have fun with every day.
Yeah.
And I really like that aspect. But I think the biggest payoff for me is not lifting trophies. It's seeing a student who thought, I could never do this, get to the end and it's like, I did that.
Yeah.
That is the complete storyline. And that for me, I have chills right now even saying that. And I think that I just wake up for that every day.
Yeah, that's the feelings you want. I remember I had the story in my head. Darn it, it's gone now. But I've had shared situations as you both. Dealing with players, dealing with teams. I was trying to remember one in particular that popped in my head when you were talking, Megan. I was like, hopefully I can remember it, and now I forgot it. But as coaches, we just make sure that we know what our game plan is. Like, we know what's in our head, or we know we would put on the document in terms of what we're going to roll out. But the biggest thing, the biggest thing is making sure that we show the students the adjustments, because every game is not going to go the way we plan it's going to go. You watch the VOD, you watch the game film, and they're playing that team one way or a different way. And then the game starts with you and them in the lobby, and boom, here it goes. Now it's not what you saw when you watched the other film. Now, don't panic. Just make those little adjustments that we talked about. So I say showing the young adults that stuff is what gives them that practical use in other areas. I'm like, so if you become a teacher, lawyer, doctor for yourself, something's going to pop up, and make sure that you just have that confidence to know, all right, take a step back, just make those little adjustments that I learned potentially from esports. That is the biggest thing I try to get out there, to my players and everything. So anything else you want to add before we're done?
I think the biggest thing, obviously, I want to thank CECC for throwing on this event. Awesome to be here. The biggest thing with esports for me is just all the people I've got to beat with it. And I think, would love to meet with you afterwards. But I think really the biggest thing is this is something I want to do till I'm 80, 90 years old. And,
I'm with you.
I want to be the old angry man, the old ball coach, whatever they call him.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. And I want to make sure that we're setting, ourselves up for success to be able to do that 120, 30, however many years from now.
Right.
Let's do this thing together.
For sure. Megan?
Just thank you for a great session, and
No
to everybody who organized it. Another shout out to Neon Star for the Overwatch tournament organization. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody on the staff here, this is phenomenal, and just even to see last year, this year is wonderful. So keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you. I was just asked to do this myself, so I was excited to share, help out. I do a podcast, so I'm used to the interview process. That's kind of where, I say got my chops, but I was an introvert when I was a kid. A lot of my friends was like, you talk? I was like, yeah, I talk. But I came out of my shell. It was through traditional sports, but then later on, once football was done, it was then like recognizing the next quality. What I learned from traditional sports is sometimes you got to take risks. You got to do things that are out of your character if you want to get better, or you want to do something different. And that's what I realized for myself, and that's what I try to relay that same message to my players. Like currently, I just met the club members, and I mentioned it in the last panel that, they've been running a club team for 3 years without faculty members. And they've been doing, I'm like, this thing is a well-oiled machine. I'm going to just come in and just kind of spit polish on the side and then ask them what else you want to do, or what type of help you need from me to help you practice better, get more players, which I'll do. That's part of my job, recruit. Or is it structure? And they said we need structure. We need practices, and let people know that we got practices at these times for these amount of hours, Monday through Friday, and then have the weekends off, So just bringing that part in, that was from them, the feedback right away that I found out. So like I said, biggest thing, listening to them, as players, because they're pretty much, they don't notice, you won't tell them either, because they running the show, but that's our little secret as directors and coaches. So everybody, thank you for listening in, and we're done with the coaches panel.